Hey everybody, it's David here from Bunkie Life, and I'm super excited to have Wes Bordelon on here. He is the founder of Tradecraft, which is a heating and cooling company, and just they serve all of Ontario. And I thought he'd be a perfect person to come on. I have a lot of questions regarding heating and cooling as it pertains to bunkies, right? So a lot of people will buy a bunkie and they want to, not turn into a sweat box in the summer, or they want to have their season extended. Let's say they want to go up there, let's say, Christmas, New Year's Eve kind of thing, and they want it to be relatively comfortable. So there's a couple of new solutions that maybe haven't reached the marketplace that we've been kind of pushing for a while. And I thought Wes would be the perfect person to explain those. And so I want to thank you so much for taking the time today, Wes.
Oh, thank you, David. Good morning. So I founded Tradecraft Mechanical about 8 years ago. And over the last few years, we've really started focusing on greener technologies. So, every heating and cooling company is into gas, furnaces or whatever it might be, fireplaces, et cetera, et cetera. But there's actually not too many in the Ontario market that are really starting to do the shift towards greener technologies like heat pump technology, things like that. And I think ultimately that's going to be the future that we're all going to see. Eventually, everyone wants to reduce their carbon footprint. The federal government wants us to reduce our carbon footprint. So, we really thought that, shifting towards that type of technology is the evolutionary step for heating and cooling companies. So
let's pretend. So this is not me, because I actually heat and cool my house with 4 heat pumps that I installed myself. But let's say you've never heard of the term heat pump. Can you break that down? Because is it just for heating, or what is this all about?
So heat pumps actually, if you just picture like a traditional air conditioner, the central AC that you see on the side of your house, a heat pump looks, for a home, a heat pump looks pretty much exactly the same. They're the same shape and everything. They just, all it does is a heat pump is an air conditioner running in reverse. So when you're cooling your home, the byproduct of that cooling process is heat. And so if you ever put your hand above your air conditioner outside and you feel the air blowing off, it's hot, right? Mm-hmm. It's blowing away that heat from the compressor. So what heat pumps do is, and then instead just turn around and push that inside. So in the heating seasons, in the wintertime, it uses that heat to warm the home. And then obviously, we're talking decades of the technological advances to the point where now they'll operate in low temperature scenarios, things like that. But that's more or less what a heat pump is. And then you can look at, now we talk about ductless systems. So let's say you have a home or a bunkie, for example, that you don't have ductwork, right? You got a home that's heated with hydronics, so that'd be like a boiler, or you have a scenario where you have an outdoor building that's got nothing in it, right? Well, how do we condition that space? How do we heat it? How do we cool it? Well, okay, so you could put a fireplace in there, and great, okay, so you have heat, but now it's 95 degrees in the middle of the summer, and it's hot. Mm. So what do? We can put what we call a ductless unit in. So it's like a head that sits on the wall, and that head is attached to a unit outside. It looks very similar to a traditional style of air conditioner, right? And what it does is it produces heating and cooling, and it blows it through that head on the wall. So now that's like a little mini furnace / air conditioner that sits inside. It operates very quietly, and it will condition the entire space extremely efficiently. So, we're talking super high efficiency ratings on these units. As we were talking earlier about going green, for example, and reducing carbon footprints, they really swing in that direction, and they're effective solutions for scenarios where you just can't put ductwork in. It wouldn't make sense to put ductwork in a bunkie, I don't think, in my opinion.
Such a small space,
you don't need much, right?
So a lot of our clients that have used a ductless kind of scenario, what they'll just do is they'll put the compressor outside, kind of beside the bunkie or behind the bunkie, out of the way, and then just run those little. I'm not using the right terminology, but those kind of tubing.
Copper
lines. So just go right into the bunkie, and then that head will mount right up on the wall there. It's out of the way. And so the ones I've got, so I actually have never installed one in a bunkie yet, but at my house, I've got 4 little compressors and then 4 little heads strategically spread out in the house. And they do an amazing job of cooling the house. And then, so when we first built that house, we had not yet installed our floor system. We had no other heating or cooling. We were able to heat the house basically right until New Year's Eve with it, and then we managed to get the floor working. So when you say low temperatures, tell us about that, because I'm curious. Is there a limit of how cold it can get?
Yeah, well, kind of, yes and no. So In the old days, heat pump technology has been around for a long time. I mean, it's very popular in Europe. It's probably been around for 40 years now. Yeah. In Canada, I mean, East Coast, West Coast, they use a lot of heat pump technology. Been around for a long, long time. So in the old days, a heat pump, what would happen is, like I said, that compressor outside is making that heat, right? So when you're in air conditioning mode, it's making heat, and in heat pump mode, it's putting it inside. But as the temperature drops outside, it gets to the point where that compressor it's surrounded by cold, right? So I mean, how much heat can it produce at that point? So an old style of heat pump, once you reach -5 degrees Celsius, let's say for example, efficiency would just drop right off. It couldn't really produce heat anymore, and then you would go to an alternative heating mode. These newer ones, so let's say for example, a standard heat pump, once it reaches about -20 outside. Now, when we say ambient temperatures, so that means we don't include a wind chill. It's just the base temperature, because wind chill does not affect these units. Okay. So you get a -20 plus wind chill, give me a -35, they would still operate. They'll still run and produce heat, but they'll start to drop off in efficiency. Then you can get into low ambient ones, which will operate down to -30 degrees Celsius. So there's not a whole lot that Mother Nature can throw at them. And unless you're living like way up in the tundra where you're dealing -40 on the regular, but even still, they'll still work, just not as well. That they won't be able to operate in now. And that's all due to technological advancements in terms of the compressors and the fans on the outdoor units and kind of how they all work. And then we're talking about, like, I don't want to get too technical, but like inverter technology and stuff like that allows these things to produce heat when you really think they wouldn't be able to. So that's kind of how that low ambient stuff works. So in terms of a bunkie, like, you mentioned about extending the season. So, you want to extend the season into September, October, maybe November, right? You can do that with these quite easily, and they'll produce plenty of heat to heat that space, right? And I mean, realistically, if you wanted to take it all year long, you could heat that thing all year. Okay. We just have to size it correctly. And obviously you probably need a little bit of insulation in there to hold the heat in, but they'll do the job.
Okay, excellent. So, I'm not an expert, right? So let's say I had a bunkie situation. I'm trying to get it to Christmas, or I'm trying to get it all year round, or I'm trying to get it, just from, let's say early April to, November, right? Whatever your cottage season is. Sure. Can I come to you and be like, hey, like, this is what I'm trying to achieve. This is the bunkie model I'm buying, and kind of provide advice. Is that kind of something you guys do?
Absolutely. And especially because with Bunkie Life, you've got set models, right? So from a product knowledge standpoint, I mean, it will know exactly what to do with every single one. You tell me, what you want it to do, what you want to do with your seasons, and we can give you some advice as to, okay, well, here's a product that's going to work for you. And then in addition to that, like, here's some things that probably you should do with insulation, which I'm sure you can assist with as well. Yeah. Right. Like, insulate this, insulate that, and this is going to work great for you.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So that's, I think, what a lot of people would be looking for, is just that, I would say hand holding, but just a little bit of like, hey, here's the angle to take, given that that's your goal. Because really, a bunkie that's just going from May to, let's say, Thanksgiving, probably doesn't need any extraneous heat in most cases. No,
you're probably just going to want cooling, right? Yeah. Or anything else. And that's the byproduct. I mean, heat pumps are air conditioners, so it's it does both, right? And I mean, what other cooling options do you have? You could shove a window air conditioner in, but then you're going to tie up a window. I mean, how many of those do you have in the bunkie? You're going to tie that up, window air conditioner, right?
And they're kind of look ghetto too. So
yeah. Or like a portable one, they're still going to be noisy. You still got to tie up some kind of exterior opening to vent them out, right? So they sit nice and clean on the wall. On the outside, you talked about the copper tubes that connect the indoor piece to the outdoor piece. We all hide those behind a nice painted track. You can paint any color you want. So the finished product is nice and clean, and it just looks pretty.
And you guys do installs as well for customers, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Well, is there any area, like, I know you're in most of Ontario, is there any areas that you don't travel to, or like, what's your kind of area?
Really, there isn't anywhere that we won't go. I mean, we've done installs all the way up in Ottawa. I mean, we're in Brantford. Okay. Obviously, that 400 corridor, Muskoka is, I mean, we do that all the time. So, I mean, there really isn't anywhere we won't go, provided that, we can get there physically, right? I mean, we got to bring a truck back there somehow to bring the equipment there for the most part.
Okay. And you guys cover a number of brands, I assume, right? In terms of like different sizes and
yeah. So, I mean, every customer may want, different options in terms of aesthetics, right? I mean, there's different looks for the indoor units. I mean, we even have some that look like a picture frame. So the head inside is like a square. You can put a picture in it and it does your heating and cooling. I mean, they're gorgeous, so we've got some really, really cool options. And a number of different brands that we deal with that can reach different price points, as well as different voltage ranges. So I know that some of your clients like doing off-grid stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We've got one that'll do 120 volts, and I think the running amperage is like 12 amps.
Okay.
So that'll do heating and cooling with a 12 amp, 120 volt. I mean, there's really isn't too many scenarios that we couldn't place one of these units to do its job.
So I could run this off of like a pretty high, decent solar panel battery kind of scenario. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. The only thing that they require is a pretty steady state of power. So you'll need probably a few deep cycle batteries trying to hold a steady amperage and steady voltage, right? Because, the circuit boards in them, not that they'll fry, but they may not like, fluctuations like that. But otherwise, I mean, most of those solar systems now you can do that pretty easily.
Yeah, and that would probably work. I'm sorry my physics brain's coming out here. That would probably work well in the summer when you get the sun shining at the same time it's hot inside the bunkie. But you couldn't heat the bunkie all winter using just solar realistically.
Those 120 volt models, probably not, because you need to have a low ambient one for that. And the low ambient units use what we call a drain pan heater, because there's some condensation produced by the outdoor unit during the winter months that there's a heater in the bottom of it that it essentially evaporates it off. So I think those ones you're going to need 240 volt for. But I mean, this will do definitely all summer. Yeah. And we'll definitely take the chill out when we're not talking, minus 20, minus 30.
Yeah. Okay. That's what most of our clients are looking for. Like it's, if they come up in January, February kind of scenarios, they're usually putting in a wood stove, right? And that's usually, for a lot of people, it makes a lot of sense. But in terms of just extending the season, this sounds like an amazing option. Plus, cooling all summer and extending the season, I mean, I think it's pretty ideal.
I mean, you think about clients that are using these, they have Airbnbs and they want to be able to add more people to the Airbnb. I mean, who's going to want to, it's 90 degrees outside. A lot of people don't want to go sleep, right, in that kind of heat. So this is a great way to add value to your investment, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And at the same time, you're extending your season on the edges. And that makes a lot of sense. So let's say I wanted to, take me through the kind of step-by-step process. Let's say I wanted to go through, figure out what I need and go right to an installed heat pump at my cottage or at my bunkie or whatever. Tell me more about that. What would I do?
So from an installation perspective, because we're using, the same kind of shell over and over again, I mean, some variations as to which model they're going to choose, but from a cost perspective, we're pretty linear, because we always kind of know what it's going to cost to install it. I mean, it's all pretty straightforward. Your only variable you're going to have is what it's going to cost to get power out to the bunkie. So that's something that may require a site visit to go, okay, we got to do this, or we got to trench here. No, but that's all stuff that we do, right?
You guys are electrical contractors, like you can run a power line or whatever?
Yeah, well, yes, because we're air conditioner licensed, we're allowed to run a power wire out from a air conditioning unit such as this to a main panel and tie it in. However, we do also work with a full-on electrician. So if it gets really technical and, we should use an electrician, we've got one that will come. He actually travels with us all over the place. So he'll go to Muskoka, he'll go anywhere. Okay. So from an installation perspective, it's like, hey, here's what I want. Here's the product I'm going to select, and then, we'll come up, we'll mount the unit, install it, and help you get the power to it and get that all figured out. Okay,
cool. That's awesome. And how far in advance are you booking? I know the thing everyone's saying is first of all, the number one email we get is, when can you get my bunkie to me? And then secondly, how booked up are your installer guys and stuff, right? A lot of our clients, 80% of our clients build it themselves because we have a really easy to build bunkie. But for the 20%, they're like, you need someone to build. It's like right now the limit is probably not even making the bunkie. We're making them pretty fast now. But it's the getting hands to come in and build it. That's been the trick. Where are you guys at timeline wise?
Right now we're a couple weeks out.
Good.
But we're trying. We're trying. We try to keep it as organized as we can. So even if we have days where we can't get a product or something, we're doing something else on a job site to try to, fit everything in. I think usually the max for 2.5 to 3 weeks is typically as far out as we're going to be, but if we have an emergency situation that needs to be dealt with, we'll fit it in.
Okay, that's great. So, Wes, tell us more about how we can reach out to you if say I want someone to come and like for sure do my bunkie, maybe even take a look at do you larger things like cottages, I assume as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually have that happen quite often. I mean, we do a lot of heat pump technology, whether it be centralized ones that operate through ductwork in a home, or ductless units that we've been talking about today. Every time we install one of these things, I haven't had a customer that hasn't been just over the moon happy. And they're always like, "Oh, can you do it here? Can you do it there?" We do it in everything from large commercial industrial applications right down to a small garage. So it's there's not much that we can't do.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So I guess we'll have a link around the video with
yes.
So if people want to kind of come and check out more about you, I don't know if there'll be like a Bunkie specific webpage or just the main Tradecraft page. We'll create something like that. And if they're a Bunkie Life client, can we get a perk or something if they're a Bunkie Life client?
Absolutely. Yeah. We'll put some kind of special on the landing page there, so that when it all links together, Bunkie Life clients obviously are going to get something special. Okay, cool, awesome. We'll put that together. And is there any other questions I should have asked that I'm just too uninformed to ask about, Wes? Like anything you want to kind of impress on? I think you covered most of the bases with this stuff. I mean, we talked about the aesthetics of the units and different options for that. Models. I mean, we touched on that lately with different brands that we carry. I mean, we carry them all. So whether it be Mitsubishi or Daikin or Gree, Toso, Goodman, those are all. When people talk about these heat pump units, it's not the traditional companies that you think of like Carrier or Lennox, or they're not the ones that make this stuff. Those brands are really big in North America, but heat pump technology came from Europe and Japan. Right. So the brands that are big there, like Mitsubishi and Daikin, those are the industry leaders. Like we do a lot of government work as well with this stuff. So we do a lot of server room cooling. So if, for example, big government buildings are upgrading the security systems, they often have to build a security room with servers in it, and they get super, super hot. So we've got to put these units in there to try to control the temperature in there as well. The only units that the government will allow are Mitsubishi or Daikins, just because of just the failure rates and stuff. Like they want to make sure that these things never ever fail. And so Mitsubishi and Daikin are obviously, they're the industry leaders, and then there's a lot of them that are very similar to them that are also very good. It's just those are the ones that are approved by government of Canada. We've got experience with them all. No matter which one. So, awesome. But otherwise, no. Yeah, you pretty much touched on it all. I think we've kind of covered the whole spectrum. Awesome. Well, I'm a huge supporter of the ductless stuff. I think it's a really energy efficient, smart way to go. And like, I guess one thing we didn't touch about, because I priced out, what if I put in ducts? This is when I was building my house, right? What if we put in ducts and blah, and go that whole, expense and like pain in the butt of getting that all put in versus just I cut a hole in the wall and I put it in myself, have an electrician finish the some of the things, but I priced it out. I was like, it was in the ballpark of about the same, with a way more flexibility, and I could heat with it as well, which I thought was awesome. So we've got some actually really cool products now that, so let's say, for example, you had a 2-story home, and obviously first floor is usually like the kitchen, living room, and most people do open concept these days. They knock the walls down, right? And then second floor, you've got 4 bedrooms. So, traditionally with the ductless units, you'd be putting a head in every single bedroom, right? Because the door, if you put one in the hallway and you close the door to go to sleep, temperature's not getting there, right? So you put one in every bedroom, and then you put, probably a couple downstairs on the main floor, right? When you start adding up heads like that, it can get pretty costly. So some of the stuff that we have now, they actually have ducted ductless heads. So you can use one outdoor unit, a multi-zone outdoor unit, and you can attach multiple attachments to it. So you could have like 2 of those ductless heads we talked about that hang on the wall on the main floor. And then on the second floor, we can put a ducted head in the attic. We connect actual ductwork to that goes out to all the bedrooms, including the bathroom, usually on the second floor, and the hallway. Now you're conditioning that entire space with one head that sits in the attic, and they are super efficient. So there's all kinds of different ways to condition these spaces, and these heat pumps. There's just so much flexibility. I mean, I've got builders now that are putting these things now in brand new homes. Like they're doing this right from the outset, that they're putting these net zero homes that they're building now. They're doing it with heat pump technology for the most part. Some of it being units like I just talked about, some of it being what we call high velocity units, which they use like a flexible 2-inch duct to run to the top of the walls, all kinds of stuff. But like ultimately, seeing ductwork in a house like that old style, big block duct that runs through, you got to put bulkheads everywhere. It's done. Like it's going to be done because there's no reason.
We didn't use any ductwork in our whole house, and it's very reasonably. It always feels comfortable. Yeah.
Heat pumps heat a lot different than traditional furnaces do, right? Because heat pumps really operate on air exchange. So they got to move a lot of air and always be turning it over to properly either heat or cool that air. Where a traditional furnace, it just blows really hot for, whatever, the thermostat satisfied, right? So you're going to get those hot and cold spots in the house. It's inevitable because it doesn't have enough time to condition every part of the air. Heat pumps do. So a lot of people that we install these things for say they just can't believe just how even the temperature is across the home. Like first to second floor, there's not a huge difference anymore. They don't have cold spots in the house. Like it's just a way different feel, and it doesn't dry the air out as much either. Like traditional furnace will dry it out, right? You got to put humidifiers in to try to. Heat pumps don't really do that. So, the comfort is a lot better with these units.
And also it's not blowing dust all over the house all the time, right? Which I really like that. Like once you kind of clean up the dust, it's gone. And then you just gotta, there's not this kind of constant cycle of, I've noticed my allergies were way better when we moved out of our old house into our house with no constant.
Some of those units, like some of the ductless units, actually, they even have ionization filters on them. You can put all kinds of indoor air quality attachments on them, so you can completely purify your air with them while you're running it.
There's a lot going. There's a lot of bonuses. So I'm super pumped. What I will say is check out Tradecraft. We'll have some links around this video of ideally like a Bunkie Life specific thing, but either way, it's been an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate you taking the time to explain all this stuff to us. And if they need to reach out to you, tradecraft.com, is that, or what's the website?
Tradecraftheatingandcooling.com or .ca. We have both, or tradecraftmechanical.com. They all work.
Okay, great. We'll have that as well around the thing. And once again, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, cheers.
Take care.